So ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this very, very important final session of the 20th International Anti-Corruption Conference. We're not the only final session of the conference, but we are part of the final sessions of the conference. My name's AJ Brown. I'm from Australia and I'm a member of the TI Global Board of Directors. And in my day job, I'm a Professor of Public Policy and Law at Griffith University in Australia. So I'm not young, but I am young at heart, and as are we all, not looking at anybody, hair quantities, etc. But in all of those roles, I have a particular interest in ensuring that young people are informed, mobilised, listened to, energised, and recognised as for all the reasons that we've talked about. I'll be involved a little bit later on. The main reason why I'm welcoming you to the workshop is, one, to emphasise the importance of this session and this topic, and therefore the energy that we want everybody to bring to it. Right from the word go, from the opening plenary, from the moment that Delia spoke in the opening ceremony, and in so many addresses, we've heard so many things about the problems of corruption, so many things about the policy solutions and the social solutions, so many things about so many topics and how they might be attacked. But if there's been two issues right from the word go that are the most common themes about the solutions and how we mobilise to achieve those solutions, it's two things. One is young people and the generations of today and tomorrow, and the second is technology and how we can harness it, deal with it, use it. And so these two themes, our two themes, are really have been a backbone of discussion right throughout the whole conference from beginning now to end. And so it's very appropriate that we have this final workshop at the end to actually pull those strands together. And I also wanted to emphasise that the reason why I'm welcoming you is that this is a workshop. So we really didn't mind if nobody too much else came, but we're very grateful that you have all come because this is really a working session. One of the things we promised out of this workshop was to think about how some of the innovations and enterprise and energy that we are going to hear about in the discussion today can be translated more broadly across the Transparency International movement and the wider anti-corruption movement, but particularly including what are the things that TI should take on, find funding to invest in, to roll out more broadly, etc. So it's a little bit of a competition in some ways. Which ones do we really like, on top of the competitions that people have already won? But the second is to develop a roadmap, again, for the TI movement, a bit of a roadmap forward to say, okay, how do we progress this? So when I come back a little bit later, it'll be to sort of, as we start to turn our thinking towards some of that roadmap, but we're going to be taking away feedback, input, thoughts, conclusions from this workshop to put into that roadmap so that we do actually take this forward in a practical way. So hence a challenge to everybody to think, okay, what are the solutions and how do we implement them? And we want your feedback as well as your input on your own experience, in addition to the great experiences we're about to hear about. So thank you for joining us on this journey, and I'll hand over to Kanane to introduce everybody and run the whole show, including telling me when to shut up, and off we go.
Absolutely.
It's yours.
Thank you, AJ. I hope you can hear me. Yes, my voice is loud enough. So good afternoon, everyone. I am Kanane Rahman, Business Integrity Specialist at Transparency International Secretariat. I will be your moderator for this session, and I warmly welcome each one of you to the workshop on tech, what is good for engaging the youth, society's harbingers of change, warding off corruption. So before we begin, I would like to take this opportunity to understand the audience and ask you a few questions. So I'm sure most of us in here in this room access or are on social media in some way, shape, or form. So how many of you here are on Twitter? Please, show of hands. Okay, so almost all of us. Perfect. How about Facebook? Who's on Facebook here? Okay. Not too bad. Let's get into the fun stuff. Who's on Instagram? Okay. Love it. I'm also on Instagram. That's my favorite. How about TikTok? All right. Snapchat? Okay. So, and of course, the last but not the least, YouTube. Amazing. So this workshop is on youth and tech, right? And YouTube actually stands out as one of the most common online platform that all age groups tend to use. But when it comes to the youth, 67% of youth use TikTok, 62% use Instagram, and 59% use Snapchat. Twitter and Facebook are usually meant for the older lot, like us. I'm getting there now. But yeah, so if you want to catch the youth, these are the platforms that we ought to be engaging them with on.
What countries?
This was looking at Europe and North America.
Pacific's
Very different? Okay, amazing. I love that. Please let us know more about that. How about the Pacific youth? Which? Okay. We will get into that as well. But thank you so much for that. So also there is no universally agreed upon definition of what constitutes youth. But for statistical purposes, the United Nations has said that anyone between the ages of 15 and 24 are considered youth. So my next question to all of you here is, in your areas of work, how many of you actually actively, meaningfully engage with this particular age group, 15 to 24? Perfect. Thank you very much. And last question, among all of us here, how many of us here actively use any form of technology in the fight against corruption in our lives? And if you use a computer, you're probably using technology in the fight against corruption. So I think it's all of us. So perfect. So just to get to know the audience and introduce ourselves. So for this moderated session, we will actually be dividing the workshop into sort of three broad blocks. So the first one will look at challenges and opportunities for using technology for engaging youth in the fight against corruption. And then we'll be hearing from the youth themselves on their novel tech-based anti-corruption tools. Lastly, we'll look into the question on what beyond using technology to engage youth, how to turn this engagement into impact to foster the next generation of anti-corruption leaders. So without any delay, in a lightning round, let's hear some key messages from some of our chapters on how they manage to use technology to engage and empower youth in the fight against corruption. So what challenges have they faced? What were the factors of the program's success? And here we have chapter representatives from Ghana, Cambodia, Fiji, Russia, and Liberia to share their insights in this. And Nigeria, yes, in this lightning round. So I now direct the first question to Mary Awelana Addah, Program Manager, Ghana Integrity Initiative, to shed some light through the learnings of the Eye on Corruption app, which is a mobile application which facilitates corruption reporting by allowing citizens and non-citizens of Ghana, particularly young people, to report corruption-related complaints to the Advocacy and Legal Advice Center. Mary, over to you.
Thank you very much. We have had a long way getting to where we are today as a chapter, engaging the youth. And let me say that one of the critical challenges we identified was the fact that if we were to succeed in our engagement strategy and in general in our fight against corruption, then it was important to bring those who are considered the future. It is the youth who are the leaders of the future. And so if we do not engage them today, then we have issues. So, and also considering that in our population, we have almost a 60% of the population per our census recently, constituting the age group you have referred to, that the United Nations refers to as a youth population. Then again, we did a survey which indicated that those who reported corruption to our ALAC were those beyond the youth. So it meant we needed to identify a strategy that brings on board those who are within our universities and high schools who see corruption on a daily basis but do not have the avenue to report same. Despite the fact that we have the ALAC, you do the analysis of the reports and you realize that it is the middle age and we those who are young at heart but not young in age who are using our platform, which we refer to as the Advocacy and Legal Advice Center, which many of you know. And so going forward in our engagement with the youth, that is our annual integrity schools, one of the recommendations was to identify a tool that promotes access, free access, easy to use, available at all times for the youth to engage. So that is the genesis of the development of the Eye on Corruption app, an application that is very small. You download either on iOS or Android, and you can report corruption about any institution in Ghana to the ALAC, and we would take it up and follow up with you. So the essence of taking up the complaints, one is for policy redress, because the issues that come up sometimes are focused on certain institutions. So we pick those up and then we deal with them at the policy level. Then secondly as well, if they are related to the youth which need to be addressed by certain institutions as well, we take them up. The ALAC coordinator who is behind would take them up and then we forward it to the institutions which can address them. So it's intended for two purposes, advocacy and also for redress. So that is what our Eye on Corruption application does for us in the Ghana Integrity Initiative. And to take this forward, we secured some resources which we supported some chapters to come on board. And so you realize that Nigeria came for a training, Liberia, we had Togo and Mali as well taking this up. And as I speak, others have come on board and we are going to replicate same to other chapters. It is critical that we make some of these avenues available so that the youth in our countries would also engage in the fight against corruption. And remember, this is an initiative that they suggested at the engagements we have with them on site during our integrity schools. So thank you.
Can you hear me? Yeah, perfect. So thank you very much for that. That's a very, very interesting app. And for those of you in the audience, you can see the QR code behind you. So if you want to read more or get to know of the app, please use your phones, scan that QR code, and you'll be able to know more about this particular application. Moving to Awal Ibrahim Musa, the Executive Director of Civil Society Legislative Advocacy Center from Nigeria. I believe you also have an app, and I think that focuses a bit on sextortion as well. So sextortion, for those of you who don't know, is a gendered form of corruption where the currency of the bribe instead of money is sex. So please, over to you.
Thank you very much, and let me also join my colleagues to welcome you to this very important session. For a very long time, young people have been subjected to all sorts of indiscriminate exposure of corruption and extortion at different forms. And unfortunately, due to the inability of proper application of tools to mobilize and educate youth to take up issues of corruption. Many young people, they see corruption, unfortunately, as a way of prosperity, and therefore they become victims of it. So one of the major challenges that we have in Nigeria, especially young people in the university, in the tertiary institution, they face a lot of challenges of harassment, intimidation, sexual abuses, all forms of problems. And because of the culture of silence in our, in our country, a lot of people are not able to speak out when they are faced with this kind of challenges. So what did we do? So CISLAC, working with GIZ, we developed an app called Timbite, and we made a very huge campaign to get schools from both the secondary school to the tertiary to university and even management of schools to be part and parcel of that program, which we launched in various parts of Nigeria to encourage young girls, and some people during the workshop, they argue that even some young boys are also being subjected to sexual harassment. But we know largely it is the young girls that usually face this more. But we don't discriminate. Everyone is equal. Once there's a genuine and authenticated cases, so we developed the app, and we encourage people to report through the app any incident or any cases of sexual abuse, or through, because sexual abuse is equally corruption, because they will tell you that if I don't sleep with you, you're not going to mark, you're not going to get this exam, or you will not pass your assignment and stuff like that. So because it is linked to corruption, we also encourage people to report those incidents of sexual abuses or harassment. And we actually succeeded by getting even the president of the country last month to organize a summit on education and corruption, where clearly this issue of extortion, sextortion came out. So we also work with the various anti-corruption agencies in Nigeria. ICPC is also here. I'm happy they're here. We work with them to engage young people in various schools. They have clubs in the various schools, and we encourage them to also speak out through the work we're doing under ALAC, which Mary has rightly mentioned. ALAC is a very successful intervention we have done, which we receive cases of complaints from the public arising from administrative injustice to corruption to human rights abuses. And I tell you that we signed MOU with Nigerian Police, National Human Rights Commission, ICPC, EFCC, and we set up a steering committee from all these institutions. So if we receive a case and we investigate that case actually has to do with human rights abuse or with corruption, we work with the agencies that are responsible to make sure that they follow up the case. So I'll tell you that out of, we've received hundreds of cases, and out of those hundreds of cases, we have successfully resolved over 65% of those cases without going to court. You didn't clap. Yes, we didn't, because this in Nigeria, to go to police station or to go to court is another form of corruption. Because if you don't have money, if you go to police station, they will say you have to even give money for the paper that your statement will be taken. So many Nigerians, they don't want to go to police station to report cases. So through ALAC, through the work we are doing, which is free of charge, we are able to resolve many of these problems, and many Nigerians, they now channel their problems, to our office that has to do with really abuses of human rights or corruption cases. And I think it is something that, we want to continue with, to encourage young people, particularly who have not been exposed to corruption, because the corruption actually is done largely by the older people, and many young people, unfortunately, they see them as role model to follow. But with encouragement that we are doing and the education that we are doing, a lot of young people are now beginning to see the merit of corruption. And we will continue to use these apps to continue to encourage young people to report corruption cases in Nigeria. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very, very, very much for that very powerful report. And corruption reporting can be a fantastic tool to afford agency to those who don't have access to formal redressal mechanisms. especially the youth, right? So Young Lear Program Manager, Citizen and Youth Empowerment Program, Transparency International Cambodia, please tell us about Our Voice, the mobile app to support citizens in reporting on public services and chapters, and also which is used for a data-driven and digitally focused advocacy in engaging the youth. So please go ahead.
Thank you. So Our Voice is another mobile app, and which is newly launched in Cambodia. In Cambodia, we don't have that kind of initiative yet. So this is very new to Cambodia, and we just launched it in April. So actually, it is a mobile app that supports citizens in reporting the public service in Cambodia. So after years of working with the government, also local people on public service and accountability, anti-corruption and good governance, we see that corruption still happens when people try to get public service that are supposed to be free of charge or charged in a certain amount of service fee, but those public officials always make way to get extra money from people. And people dare not to make complaint because one of the main reasons is retaliation. So they dare not to, because our complaint mechanism in Cambodia is very traditional, that you have to write and then put the letter in the complaint box, which is placed right in front of the public official office. So when we go and put it there, people just look at you, oh, you make complaint, and they notice you. So after been observing and talking to people and officials, we come up with a new idea that a mobile app is important, and we can use that way to make people dare to report whatever happened when they go to the public service. Yes, so we successfully create that mobile app, but we don't have a lot of money to launch it all over the country, so we only launch it for 3 provinces out of 25 provinces in Cambodia, and 8 cities out of 25 cities in Cambodia. But we already see a success already, because in some provinces that we are not launching it yet, people already contacted us if we are already present in their province, and one if we are not yet. So we can see that it is a positive effect that we can have from that mobile app. And also, as for the challenge in that mobile app as well, because it is new. Oh, I forgot to tell you that it is the mobile app. It's a collaboration between TI Cambodia and also the Ministry of Interior with the government as well. So if people make complaint, it's not just go into the black hole, into the mobile app. It's go directly to the Ministry of Interior, and then the ministry will check if the complaints keep going up and there's no result, there's no solution for the people, the ministry will go directly to the Ombudsman office. So that is our mechanism for that. Yes, thank you.
Perfect. Thank you so very much. A common theme that I just noticed here is that a lot of these apps are being used as a redressal mechanism, because it can be very hard to report corruption because of whatever reasons, whether the police is not cooperating in Nigeria, or whether, the complaint box is right outside the public official's office. So if reporting corruption is so challenging, what happens when you try to investigate it, right? That could be doubly challenging. So efforts at uncovering the truth around corruption can be bolstered also by a number of tech tools. So Awelana Vandeshava, Executive Director, Laboratory of University Transparency and Coordinator of Anti-Corruption Education, TI Russia, please give us your insights on the apps and platforms that can help young activists in investigating corruption.
Thank you so much, Kanin. Hello, everyone. I guess if we will discuss challenges and opportunities, the first challenge, as I see, is motivation. So how exactly to motivate youngsters to be involved, to care, and to show the meaning of what we do. And for me, it's usually explanation of consequences of corruption and certain impact on deepening the inequality and injustice all over the world. And not only political, but also personal damage from corruption. The second challenge is lack of resources, lack of funding, because all services need a lot of funding, and it impacts sustainability of our projects. The next challenge is rapid technological obsolescence. So we always need to develop our services, and again, we need resources for that. And the last is very special, that's about Russia. Our organization, Transparency International Russia, has the status of foreign agent. That means it's an issue of security for our users. About advantages, about possibilities, I see services themselves as the possibility because it makes investigations easier and faster from the point of view of evidence collecting and fact-checking. For instance, we use Declarator database that allows to see public officials' assets and income. And for young investigators, we work in the framework of the Laboratory of University Transparency with those who are from 18 till 25. And they learn how to provide their own investigations. We help them to publish their results, and they see those results. They see the reaction of law enforcement bodies. For instance, recently, we worked and we analyzed a database Declarator with them, and they compared data about property of rectors of Russian universities and found undeclared property abroad. They claimed about that, and we received a response. Look, it's a real violation, and they started an official investigation. That's how I also try to motivate youngsters. They can see the result, and they can influence the real situation and improve it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very, very much. So, I mean, using apps to report corruption, supporting young activists in investigating corruption, all of these are great tools at, engaging youth. But sustaining youth engagement is also a very crucial step in building these networks of resilience, right? So Anderson Miamin, Executive Director, Center for Transparency and Accountability in Liberia, could you please tell us how the Youth Engagement and Integrity Club, the iClub program, has used technology to sustain its efforts?
Thank you. So at Center in Liberia, we're also contributing to the whole conversation around youth engagement. So by the way, young people below the age of 35, persons below the age of 35 in Liberia are more than 50% of our population. So what we're doing is at two levels. First of all, to get young people to manage the youth engagement program or the integrity clubs themselves, but then also for those young people to go out there and engage with other young people. How are we doing that? At the moment, we have what we call integrity clubs, 4 of them in 4 universities in Liberia. And the whole idea is for us to train young people, university students who are closer to the job market so that they go to high schools and into the communities to engage with other young people and even people be at both their ages to talk about integrity building, anti-corruption, ethics, and all of that. So since 2020, late 2020, when we started the program, the 4 clubs have reached out to more than 7,000 persons, most of them young people, at different universities, but then also in high schools, at secondary and primary levels. In terms of technology, usually there's a tendency for people to look at, all these complicated, complex tools and all of that, but we're doing some simple things as well. So for example, we're using WhatsApp. We have a hotline that young people and people of other ages are using to report corruption. One of the cases that we're dealing with right now at the chapter came from students from one of the universities that we're dealing with. So that's technology that we're using. We're also using WhatsApp to keep these young people connected so that they engage, they learn, and share. So they have a WhatsApp group. They also have a messenger group that they are in, that they share, learn, and engage from time to time. Part of what we're doing to keep these young people motivated to sustain their engagement with the process is to avail opportunities to them. So we're not just talking to them about ethics, about integrity, and all of that. When there are opportunities at the chapter, we avail those opportunities to them. So we train some of them to the use of ODK, Open Data Kit, and other data collection tools to help conduct surveys. So since we started the youth engagement program and started dealing with the university students, we don't hire people from outside to do our data entry at a chapter level now. We use those university students to collect our data. We launched one of our reports, the State of Corruption report recently. The data for that report was collected by young people. Also, we use these young people to enter data we collect from our field engagement. So the attendance log we bring out from the field when the workload is very heavy that the M&E team cannot deal with, we get some of those university students to come in and input the data. And of course, we give them some sort of compensation that then helps to take care of some other costs, while they go to school. So there are a whole lot of things that we're doing to really keep these young people engaged with the process, motivated, so that they think more about integrity and not corruption and all the other bad things that are happening that they see a lot of people doing in society. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you very, very much, Anderson. And it's so shocking when you mentioned WhatsApp. In the introduction round, I forgot to add WhatsApp as a social media platform because it has become such a deeply ingrained part of my phone that I just think it's my normal messaging service, but it's not. It's actually a platform. So thank you so much for reminding me of that. So now, speaking of social media, in a completely digital age, social media is both a tool of empowerment and raising awareness, but it is also a tool to spread misinformation and lies. So Joe Felitti, Board Chair, Integrity Fiji, can you please tell us the main challenges and lessons learned from educating young people on navigating these platforms?
Thank you. To those of you who may have not heard of Fiji, Fiji is a very small island nation, but we are famously known for Fiji water. It's very expensive here. In terms of, in 2019, a bunch of young people gathered to form this organization called Integrity Fiji. And in 2019 as well, and just for information, all of us are all young people, and we are all board members as part of this organization. 2019, we started to mobilize. We saw a vision that needed an anti-corruption, a group that was strongly advocating for anti-corruption, spreading awareness. But then came 2020, COVID was very bad in the Pacific. Everything shut down. We had to be very competitive in terms of how are we going to seek funding? How are we going to compete with other non-government organizations way bigger than our organization? Because it's just a youth-led organization, just by a lot of young people, and not many people saw the need for young people, and COVID times, they didn't see the connection. So we thought, creative arts, using social media. Everyone was on social media. Everyone's communicating on Facebook because there was no movement. People were at their homes. So also at the same time, there was a lot of misinformation going around COVID and what's COVID doing. And in the Pacific, we come from an island nation. We come from small Pacific island nations. We're not privileged. Many of us are not privileged enough to have more education. Some of us, and especially with the organization we work with a lot of high school dropouts, young people who are just out there wanting to do something but cannot do something. So we were thankful to the UNDP and UK Aid, and also to US Embassy, who were able to give us funding. They saw what we all envisioned, which was using social media through Facebook, TikTok. You can scan and see everything that we do, all sort of dancing, but I'm not there. We sort of started to engage young people through this, using social media. It was big. But one of the key challenges as well was we were challenged by people who were using fake profiles to attack us as well. To attack, that's not right, you are doing the wrong thing. Oh, sorry, this government is good. Oh, sorry, that's not corruption. So we had to think of, okay, how are we going to think about these are some of the risk things. And as much just hearing from the other panelists where they talked about apps and all that, we wish we could do that, but we are limited in resources. And just being at this IACC has also given me ideas in also how to work with anti-corruption and with climate change activists. Corruption is everywhere. And because of the Pacific Island countries, we are in the forefront of fighting climate change. Our island nations are sinking. And we hope maybe in the next IACC, you'll see a lot of young people from the Pacific coming and present. Yes, give a round of applause. We're going to do that. Yes, and also more opportunities for young people to have more panel that includes youth-centered approaches. Also want to acknowledge my Pacific Island country members that's also here. And I think one of the key most original document that the USP Student Association, which Sonia from UNDP talked about, was this big outcome here, you can see, which is sort of like a regional vision in terms of young people and the role of anti-corruption in the Pacific. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you very much. So we mentioned this at the beginning. We really want this to be an interactive workshop, and we don't want it to be just us going on and on and on. So we, after every block of questions, are going to pause for questions, reactions, comments from the audience. So we have a few minutes. Any questions, any reactions to what was just presented by our chapter representatives? This is not a classroom. You're not going to get punished. Please, go for it.
Can you guys hear me? Is this on? No? Okay. So I'm the executive director of National Whistleblower Center. We are a whistleblower nonprofit organization in the United States. And our area is very old. We have a lot of old people in leadership, and I'm the youngest leader of a nonprofit in our area. And thank you. And that's brought us into the social media world, using our email service differently. And, you know, we are planning a rollout on TikTok. It's kind of complicated because I'm the only one who's really willing to be in front of the camera. We have Instagram, and we've been making reels. I actually made a reel here yesterday about the anti-money laundering bill that just passed. So we're really focusing on the youth, and I love hearing from you guys. I'm also a mentor, and the question I wanted to ask was, who are your mentors, and what are the markers of a good mentor that really supports you in your efforts?
Thank you very much. That's a brilliant question. Who would like to answer that? Aliona, go for it.
Regarding the University of Laboratory of University Transparency, mostly it's anti-corruption practitioners, those who already provided a lot of investigations, like investigative journalists, and we ask them to be involved. We included them in our board, and they provide certain recommendations and try to lead from the very beginning, from the design of the investigation till the moment of publication.
Thank you very much. Anyone wants to add?
Yeah. In addition to that, we also identify young people who have exhibited integrity over the period that these youths can easily relate to. So in addition to the elderly people and some of the traditionally known people of integrity in the society, we try to identify young people that they can relate to more easily. That way they can say, okay, if this person who is probably 40 years old or 45 or 39 can live a life of integrity, then at my level, at 15, 16, 17, 18, it's also possible for me to do it.
All right, so I just wanted to add that for us, we have put in place a special process to ensure that we have mentors for our youth and particularly the integrity clubs in the universities. They have patrons, and these are people who are people of integrity. At least we cannot vouch for them to the 100%, but we know that these are people who would stand by their word and exhibit characteristics of integrity. Again, they shepherd them and lead them, and then GI is also available to shepherd and lead the process for them. We also have a process where we intentionally identify spaces for them to occupy. So when there are big events where we are to speak, we bring them on board. I remember recently there was a USAID meeting where they were looking for a youth to represent, and it was one of our integrity club members we took there. They were amazed because these young people have been mentored so very meticulously. They stand out there and shine so bright. It's amazing. You are so proud to see how they are working. Thank you.
Yeah, just to a little bit from what my colleague have mentioned, maybe you were looking for mentor and suitable mentors. Besides that, we can also have a mentor clubs because some people, we have different needs. Maybe I only want a female mentor, or other maybe only want an elder mentor, or maybe other one a mentor that doesn't talk so much about the detail. So what I say is that perhaps you look for a recruitment of those who would like to volunteer to be mentored, and then you have your own checklist of those kind of preference things.
Perfect. Oya, do you have a question or a reaction? Okay, perfect. Go for it.
I'll be very short. About the mentor question, integrity schools and alumni of the integrity schools actually are perfect for it, because when you have the integrity schools, you actually have the ambassadors of anti-corruption, and then if you can form a group out of that, and if you can have it really, close and warm cooperation, then actually they are pretty good engaging with others, and then they are much better than us, I have to tell you. They're young people, they learn from each other, and that's one thing. The second thing is that the women movement in Turkey, they had started this mentorship program, and we actually thought about it. It's a good idea that we should do it. One contribution to how technology can be used, that's youth and tech and elections. That actually perfect combination when you want to have the political integrity in the elections. We were inspired by Mexican chapter, Transparency International Mexican chapter, and we applied it. It worked like that. Disclosure of assets are sort of like a taboo topic in Turkey. They're not used to it. They don't feel comfortable about it. And then we started a campaign. That campaign from Twitter, basically, we were targeting the candidates, political candidates, and then it was linked to a campaign, the Change.org petition campaign. And as soon as, and then we were targeting them, and we were, our young people were doing it, and then we were asking everybody, we were just emailing all the people that we have contact with it, just ask them, whoever is in your region is a MP running, just ask them what is the, their assets, so they have to disclose it. So it turned out to be very good, because immediately it goes to the petition, and then his name was coming up, and then his followers were asking. So it was actually good, and I just wanted to, say it out loud, so these could be possible.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
Okay.
You have a question?
Yes, a contribution more like.
Go for it.
About youth and tech. My name is Azuka. I'm from the ICPC Nigeria Independent Corporate Practices Commission. And I was just listening to the presentations, and I was very impressed that the different countries are having different apps. And in Nigeria, too, we have the same scenario. Many people are developing apps for reporting corruption and encouraging the young people to report corruption. But I'm like, when it comes to youth and tech, it's not just about developing apps, because young people tend not to download apps that they don't know. So I think we should think more of leveraging the existing applications, like you mentioned, the social media platforms, and then think of the messages we can use those platforms to pass across. Like in my commission, we are looking at behavioral change approaches to fighting corruption. So we are looking at developing messages in forms that are easily digestible by the youths. I think everybody on Instagram can spend hours watching reels and shorts, and before you know it, 1 hour is gone and you're watching 30-minute clips of funny videos and all that. So in ICPC, we are trying to take time to develop a lot of shorts and reels based on the values we want to teach the children. We have the National Ethics and Integrity Policy that highlights some core values that we want to teach. So we develop these shorts and reels. We want to get some in animated format, 2D, 3D animations to put out there, even on Twitter, because it's light, it's not heavy. If you put it on Twitter, somebody can just go through it in 30 seconds, and it passes a message. You can now use those platforms to pass messages on integrity, on electoral integrity, voter education, just about everything. And I think just leveraging the existing platforms, looking at what is trending, and keying into all those, I think that's the best way to go about it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. You have another intervention.
Hi everyone, my name's Clancy Moore from TI Australia. Firstly, thank you to the panelists. Mary, fantastic speech. Our colleague from Integrity Fiji, it's an honour as always to listen to you, and all the other panelists. Well done, congratulations. Very informative. So I have a question and also a suggestion for our TIS board members who are attending. And I've only been with TI for 4 months, so excuse my questions if they're coming from a place of ignorance. But my question is there a place for TI staff working on youth issues within the movement to actually engage and strategise and kind of collaborate? That's my first question. My second suggestion, given that TI is a very old movement, most of the panellists have been over the age of 40 or 50 or 60 in some instances, perhaps at the next IACC I would make a request to AJ Brown and Oya. Any other TIS board members are here? I think Daniel Erickson was here before, but he left before I got to ask the question. But the request would be that perhaps there should be a youth organising committee as part of the ISCC to ensure that youth issues are part of every day and there's a youth stream going throughout the conference agenda. But yeah, my first question, maybe someone can answer as well.
Perfect. Thank you. We'll move on to more questions. We have 2 more sessions of question and answer, so we move on to questions then. Would someone like to answer a question that you just posed? Okay, perfect. We got the message. Perfect. All right. Yes, and I could not agree more. But by the way, I'm 29. I'm not 40. So we move on to the next block from actually hearing from youth who have used technology in the fight against corruption. And to start us off, we will have Leonardo Paradiso from the UNODC Grace Initiative to enlighten us why should we have this program on leveraging digital innovation for youth engagement in the fight against corruption, which is the Coding for Integrity Hackathon. So please tell us more about it.
Thank you. Can you all hear me? All right. I'm 33 also, so you said let's hear it from the youth, so I will take that as a compliment. Hi everybody, my name is Leonardo. I come from Italy and I work with the United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime, which is based in Vienna, Austria. Why I'm here today? I'm here not as a tech expert, because believe me, I am not, but I do, and many thanks for placing me in the middle of this great panel. I do think I share with each and every one of you the belief in the great potential of technology in order to enable everyone as a collective action, the fight against corruption. So I work most specifically with an initiative within UNODC, which was launched exactly 1 year ago. The initiative is called GRACE, which stands for a Global Resource for Anti-Corruption, Education and Youth Empowerment. And it is aimed, let's say, overall to shape the new generation of guardians of integrity. How do we do that? We do that via supporting member states in implementing the United Nations Convention Against Corruption in an innovative way, if you will, and that the innovation stands in the fact that we work in direct contact with a new, let's say, form of stakeholders, which is that of educators, academia, higher education institutions, students, teachers, and me personally within the GRACE team, directly with the young people. One way that we engage young people to join the fight against corruption is that of leveraging their skills in technology and their dedication, let's say, to overall social entrepreneurship. And this program here, the Coding for Integrity Youth Anti-Corruption Hackathon, is one of the ways that we try to engage talented young people and harness their skills in technology to develop new solutions against corruption. This is a fairly new initiative. As I said, the entire GRACE initiative was born only a year ago, and the Coding for Integrity series was launched in 2021 as well. First edition was virtual, simultaneously in 5 countries, namely Egypt, Kenya, Senegal, Nigeria, and South Africa. It lasted around 4 weeks. Then we were lucky enough to build up on that experience with the further editions. One was in Brazil just a couple of months ago, and I'm very pleased to say that we're already doing more. I'm not going to be too long because I believe that we are already a little late, but if you will indulge me, I would like to show you a video which I think says much, much more than I could say here in a few seconds. And sorry for those who are going to break their neck.
A hackathon is a competition.
A short period of time where people come to build real-time solutions.
A lot of people come together, they form teams, and then they work together, to try to find solutions to that problem.
It's a competition where you come to be innovative so that it becomes something real.
Corruption is like a virus. It's destroying people, it's destroying futures, it's destroying people's dreams, and it's destroying, how things are supposed to be. And if we can stop that and let things go the way they're supposed to be, then everyone has an equal chance of participating.
We are a team, we work together more than 2 years. We are doing blockchain projects. Our main focus is tracking the donation and making sure that the donation reaches to the people who deserve.
My team, we're just a collection of young people with similar passions, similar goals, building real-time solutions that will address real-time problems.
Our project is about to let people denounce corruption in the simplest way. By scanning a QR code and filling a questionnaire, you can denounce corruption anonymously.
We came up with a system that was detecting fraud in the public procurement space and also the contractor bidding processes, while also ensuring safe and anonymous whistleblowing from the public.
We actually use the technologies that we have, we can go a very long way towards eliminating corruption or driving it out of our community.
Being part of this initiative means a lot to me. It means so much to be able to be the one actually bringing the change that we have all been asking for some time.
This hackathon has been an exciting opportunity for me.
I'm excited. I'm excited to see where this whole thing can go.
This is an interesting journey. Within a couple of weeks, we have learned many experience related to corruption.
The hackathon show us the age isn't very useful in the process of finding solutions.
It's actually a wake-up call for every young person out there to become innovative. Let's just innovate, let's ideate, let's look for possible ways which have not been tried before, ways that have not been used before to fight corruption. I think the hackathon has answered that big question.
Thank you, Petra, for showing the video. So this was a very brief summary about the hackathon edition that we did last year. In a nutshell, an hackathon is a coding competition where software developers, they are provided with knowledge about the subject matter, so anti-corruption in this case, integrity and ethics, and as well as some technical coding, let's say, mini lectures. And they are helped by a team of mentors to develop their solutions. I'm sure we are tired of hearing about it from me. Here we have seen him also in the video, so I give it back to you.
Yes,
so that
absolutely.
He can take
we
it up.
actually have one of the hackathon winners from South Africa, from the team Blockchain Bulls. We have Batandwa Mgutsi. Am I getting that correct? Perfect. Okay. So please tell us about your solution and what you did.
Hi, everyone. I'm a little bit nervous, so probably you can see that. So if I can ask, what do you guys know about blockchain? Okay, let me not ask what you know. Who knows what blockchain is? Yeah, roughly. Okay, who has bought like Bitcoin? No one. Okay. So like Koi said, my name is Batandwa. I'm from UCT. I'm a student developer at UCT. So basically, I'm the 2021 Coding for Integrity winner. We were the first group to actually win the hackathon, so lucky us. So basically, I like my lecturer basically shared like this hackathon. He told us that something is happening, and you guys have to build something to fight corruption. So I was like, okay, I want to join. So I joined there, and I didn't have a team member. So I got paired with Joseph. And we also got connected with Levy. Levy is like this guy from South Africa. He's in National Treasury, like part of National Treasury. So the problem that we focus on was the transparency when it comes to public administration. So we wanted to make it easy to answer the question of where did the money go. You get these public organizations that get money. And then, after a while, money is gone, and there's no records to show where the money went, and no one is kind of like taking that accountability to basically say, this is what happened with the money. So we basically focus on building something that was going to solve that. So how we did that, we worked with a blockchain technology called Sila. So what happens there is that we so if you are a public organization, right, you come to us, you create an account, and then we create this kind of like a bank account, but it's happening on a blockchain. So what happens there is that everything that happens to that account is tracked, right? So every time you make a payment, it sits on the blockchain, and every time you receive money, it's on the blockchain. So, and because of that, no one can basically go to the network thing and kind of like alter that. So if it's there, it's already there. No one can change it, and everyone can basically see it. So yeah, that's basically what we built. I'm going to try to be short. So yeah, so we worked with Levy, and the whole idea was just to ensure that him and his team can basically be able to use our solution to kind of like determine or tell or answer the question of where money went to. Yeah, so that's that. Hopefully I can tell more during the questions thing. Yeah, so the whole experience was kind of like good. Like I said, when I joined the thing, I was just like, okay, let me just try it. And then I got connected to, with Joseph, who knows a lot about the blockchain stuff. And, I met like really, really nice people, like Leonardo and, a few other guys who have done, similar stuff. And yeah, so for me, it was kind of like a great learning experience. And, like this is the third year, I think. And, I just wish that, they keep it going so that, more students can actually, be part of that. Because, you go to school and you get to learn so many stuff, and there's only like so few opportunities that you can, apply those things, and, being able to be part of this and actually use the skills that you have to come up with solutions to, solutions to problems that, affect like your communities, your country and all that. So yeah, for me, that was kind of like a really good thing. So that's going to be it for me, like for now. Cool.
Thank you very much and congratulations once again. As promised, after every block, we will stop for reactions and comments. We have 2 from the previous round, so I'm going to pass the mic on to you, and so you can ask your questions. There you go.
Thank you very much, and thank you to all the panelists. I mean, such amazing, powerful stories of what you're doing with tech and young people in your countries. My name is Sheila Masinde from Kenya. I work for Transparency International chapter in Kenya. And I think in Kenya we also have quite a very vibrant tech community, young people, and I think the only people who beat us is Nigeria. We have a lot of our fights with Nigerians on Twitter as well, because we also have a big community in Kenya and we get a lot of things done through social media. And so I've seen the good side of social media as a force for good. But I also sometimes grapple with tech as a disruptive force. Especially for us, we are grappling with how it has kind of facilitated almost a crisis of values, especially among young people. And you look at social media, and there are very few role models on social media. So I think I would have wanted to also hear a little bit more about how we, tackling the negatives that come from social media. Because I would say in Kenya, one of the things you're struggling with is all of a sudden this large number of young people who just want to get rich very fast, because you're seeing a lot of opulence and all this, demonstration of wealth, and you pull all these photographs on Instagram, on TikTok, and everyone wants to be like that socialite or this person who's making it so big through social media without having to work for it. So we're grappling with that aspect of social media here as we also try to create a better culture in terms of values and ethics and so on. So maybe if people have been a bit more successful in their countries in terms of tackling the negatives of social media, I'd like to hear a little bit more. And then also one of the struggles we're also having, despite tech, a lot of young people being engaged, is also the fact that we're an urban but also rural community. And we find that particularly even during the COVID time, when a lot of things shifted to social media, mobile and so on, but we also felt that a lot of people, especially in upcountry, were being left behind because they don't have access to mobile platforms, technology and so on. So maybe if I can also get to hear from some of you, how successful have you been at mobilizing the rural folk as well so they're not left behind? Thanks.
Perfect, thank you. Maybe Joe Feliti can answer that question real quick, and then we can move to Celia, because I hope that I'm not butchering your name, but we'll get you.
Okay, with the first question around social media, I think for us, before letting young people go into doing campaigns, we did a short training with them where we engaged the Online Safety Commission and also talked about some of the risks. Some of these young people, we saw that when young people started to post things, they also began to fight as well. Like no one was coming to a true consensual understanding. There was a lot of disagreement. So for us, one of the key things that we did was we did a pre-training with them, identifying some of the risks. Also understanding some of the policies and legislation within the country that's in place because there's been cases around defamation in Fiji specifically. So we've talked with our young people specifically on that, those who were being engaged, especially on our campaign. So I think if there's any national policies in place, legislation, it's not just about just putting this out to young people, do it, campaign, that's it. But it's also letting them doing that risk analysis as well. These are the pros and cons of things, and how do you mitigate this? So I think I think an approach that we've done is working with your partners, especially online safety commissions, to see what are the things that are in place to also protect them, and what are the reporting mechanisms in place for them to report in case they become victims in trying to spread awareness around anti-corruption.
Perfect. Thank you very much. And
just in addition to that, this is a very difficult thing to cartel with, because a lot of misinformation, fake news, and so many things going on. And because of the poor knowledge from the youth to get the right information, it is almost difficult to control the infiltration of all this news going around. I think the best way, like ICPC person had mentioned, is to use the various apps that we have to actually preach and teach good values for our young people. Let our young people have a different narratives, because like you rightly mentioned, a lot of young people, they want to just be rich overnight, and they're using all this, social media and technology to do all sorts of fraud. At the end of the day, it's a negative thing that is bringing to the society, to the community. So I think one of the ways that I think we should actually do this is to spread the good news using the social media, using the app application to discourage these other things that young people are misled to be doing, because they see crooks and criminals as role model. So they definitely want to do that. Nobody wants to be a teacher now. Nobody wants to be a hardworking person. Everyone wants to just, so I think it's a big challenge that we have to do a lot to de-emphasize it in using social media applications.
Thank you very much. I think that's a very pertinent point, right? Like, we have to do a lot. And this morning over breakfast, we were talking that you have to meet youth where they are, right? We have to preach values, we have to do all of that. But where do we do it? How do we do it? That's the question. And I think that's what we are all here to answer and deliberate on. But yeah, over to you, please.
Wow, it's working. My name is Sille Hall Eholm. I'm from Denmark. I'm a city councillor in Copenhagen. I was in the talk yesterday with Oya and some other people in the room. Well, we discussed why it's important to engage youth, and yes, we discussed something about breakfast, but I first actually kind of want to respond to the discussion's been going on about here with social media, because I feel like some of you make it sound like that, so I'm 23 years old, so I'm from Gen Z, and you kind of make it sound like we need to be trained in how to use social media. And I just want to say that from my experience, it's never people from my generation who are spreading fake news, who are writing extremely bad comments on social media. It's always John, who's 64 years old, and just
could not agree more.
They don't know. Like, I'm just sorry, but it's not us who don't know how to use social media. We do know how to use social media. We do know how to treat people with respect. We do know how to filter fake news from what we can actually trust, and spend your time wiser, because we do know how those things work, and what we need is to be met where we are. So what we discussed over breakfast this morning is that for my election campaign last year, I was running for city council. I made a politician profile on dating apps. So I made profiles on dating apps and just swipe right on everybody to actually meet the youth where they are, because they're not going to show up to a local debate at some library. They're going to be on a dating app Friday night. They're going to be on Twitter, on Instagram. So that's where you got to meet people. But saying that we don't know how to use social media is just so wrong, because we are so much better than the generations that are older, and we are. I mean, I've never gotten a single bad comment or rude comment from anyone under the age of, I would say, 35. It's always old people, and it's extremely rude. And so meet people where they are, and have some confidence in us. We know what we're doing.
I would like to add just a little bit. I agree with you that young people know how to use Facebook, but it's not always the truth because some people, young people, especially in, I wouldn't try to finger at Cambodian. Many Cambodian youth are not many of them are on Facebook, but not many of them really know how to use Facebook. They only use Facebook according to our very recently conducted Youth Outlook surveys. They use Facebook just for entertainment. They don't really use Facebook to really try to get the news or useful information. And even some of our youth who use Facebook, they don't know how to create their own account. They ask others to create the account, and the password is with those who create it for them. They don't even know how to change it. So it's, 50-50 as well. Sure, yeah. True.
Perfect. Thank you very much. This was a very, very lively discussion. Could not agree more with everything and all the views that were put forward. So thank you very much for that. We are now going to move into our final block of questions. So we've used social media, we've used all the tech. Let's say in an ideal world, we've engaged all the youth in the fight against corruption. How do we turn this engagement into impact to foster actually the next generation of anti-corruption leaders? So first, Mary, I turn to you. How do we sustain this engagement? And could you perhaps shed light on outreach and communication that's done through networks, apart from, say, social media, like perhaps even offline? So go for it.
Thank you. I believe if we want to see this go forth, then we have to, again, as I indicated before, be very intentional. And we have done that. I mentioned that we have ALACs, and the purpose of the ALAC is to ensure that we are reporting corruption. We have brought on board the youth through our Eye on Corruption app. And so to see this go forth, we need to ensure that the capacity of the youth to take this message forward is done and sustained. And it can only be done if we all agree and come to a consensus that as a Transparency International body, we are purposely going for this. Like we adopted ALAC. Today we have ALACs in so many countries. In one country, you could have about 10 ALACs. And in others, you have, and we are doing it different ways, but it is ALAC. And so if we want to promote youth engagement in the work of anti-corruption, then we have to be purposeful and intentional. In our ALAC, let me give an example. We use investigative journalists who are young to go forth and then get more information on the cases that are reported to us through both Eye on Corruption and the ALAC. When they do that, whatever stories they are able to investigate and then bring for us to support our cases on, then we send forward. And so when we have success, and we have a lot of them, we have documented success stories of the engagements we have had. When we have this success, it's one of the major motivators for going forward. If we have failures, then we have to go and sit down and think about what we would be doing again. But then success is, as they say, when you are successful, people want to be near you. Success attracts a lot. So if we are successful in what we are doing, we tend to engage a lot of people around us. And we can only do this if we put in policy as a Transparency International body, and then this will trickle down to our national chapters, and we could also then trickle this down to our communities. Again, the various groupings we have, like the social auditing clubs, you talked about integrity clubs. How can we streamline this or mainstream this into the Transparency International body? Whatever we call them, they could be integrity clubs, they could be social auditing clubs, they could be whichever, integrity schools. We have them across. Let's mainstream this. And if we mainstream this, then we can identify who is interested in supporting us to carry forth this agenda. Otherwise, we will be working in silos, patting ourselves on the back on these silos that we are engaging in. And then we cannot directly quantify the impact. We want to see impact in the work we do. And so going forward, let's be thinking about that. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you very much. So as I think through this discussion workshop today, we've realized that the youth tend to, I mean, at least the majority of the youth tend to do have the skills, the technological skills, and they are on social media. They are, whether they're using it for entertainment or for whatever purposes. So how do we skill these engaged youth up? How do we train them to have political and policy skills, right? So, Awelana, could you please shed some light on that? And perhaps, Petra, you could help with the
with the video, because as I promised, I would like to show one certain instrument, that is Declarator, database of income and assets of Russian public officials, and you will see some familiar, not very pleasant faces. What I see as a solution is a platform. Maybe we can use those platforms already exist, or create new one. A kind of academy or university where we can create a space. It's not the case when we are adult people will teach youngsters how to struggle with corruption. Not. We should create really convenient space and to show the way and to support in case if it's needed. Okay, let's check this video with a certain tool. You definitely will enjoy the voice.
Declarator is a web service which allows its users to access data on Russian public officials. This service is effectively a who is who of Russian civil servants, which greatly reduces the time needed for research. One of the main data sources for Declarator is the information from official declarations of assets and income. Normally, this data is scattered over thousands of websites, where it is presented in dozens of different formats. In Declarator, information is presented in the form of a public official's profile, structured and visualized, with the data spanning in some instances for more than 10 years. By December 2022, Declarator contains information on 790,000 Russian public officials. The database is regularly updated, and it keeps integrating information from sources other than official declarations, such as registries of sanctioned entities. Even more features are available to the registered users. One of such features is the Declarator Index. It is calculated based on 25 parameters of data in the profile of public officials. Each of these parameters is a red flag, which increases the Declarator Index for a specific person and indicates they may be subject of interest for journalists and civil activists. Recently, investigators from the LOUBE, an initiative for transparency in higher education, used Declarator to uncover undeclared foreign assets of rectors at state universities. Declarator is in high demand among researchers and investigative journalists, and its daily attendance approaches 20,000 unique users. The service is available in Russian and English.
And one more thing I will add, Leonardo already mentioned hackathon, and we also organized Panamathon after the investigation. Panama Papers, people and young people too worked with leaks and analyzed and tried to find those public officials who used offshore jurisdiction to hide their property. And it was, and that's how we try to organize teaching in a way with a lot of fun, and make it attractive to the audience.
Thank you very, very, very much for that. Thank you. And I think now we just have the last final comments from AJ to wrap things up. Oh, there you go.
We going? Yeah. So, yeah, thank you very, very much. What I thought I would just do, because I said at the beginning that we would use this session to map, to start building the roadmap for what TI might do to take forward some more structured agenda that deals with everything we've been talking about here. So what I'd like to suggest, this is completely unplanned, but what I'd like to suggest is if I quickly run you through some of the major elements and choices that we would need to make that would feature as part of that roadmap that I've extracted from the examples and the discussion we've had. And then I've got 4 of those. And then I've got 6 issues that I think practical issues we have to consider in building this little roadmap. So what I'd like to ask everybody to do is just think of at least one major issue or element or whatever of the way forward that has leapt out to you, or a problem that you think needs to be considered out of this discussion. And as I run through mine, just bear in mind, have I covered it or not? And if there's things that you think I haven't covered in this little list, then especially in the few minutes that we'll have left, we especially want to hear those thoughts so that we can make sure that we've included everything we need to be thinking about as the mix. So I've extracted sort of 4 major elements of a potential roadmap, all of which involve some choices. So the first one is the opportunity to use the development of technology as a process of engagement in itself, which is what we've seen in the hackathon competition. So it's actually using the development of technology to engage people, not the technology itself just to engage people, but the development of the technology. So for example, I don't know how many countries the hackathon is working in now, but in an ideal world, TI might just decide, let's do every chapter that has any potential to participate in a competition, just to engage people. I'm not saying we can do that or we will do that, but that's element 1, if you like, of a roadmap, is the use of the development of technology to engage people. The second is the use of technology is to provide the technology with which we engage people, which is obviously what we've also been talking about. And I guess the choices here are whether to focus, and we've seen some different uses of that. We see technology being used to enable people to report corruption, address corruption, blow the whistle, etc. As somebody who works on whistleblowing, I'm quite familiar with the way that applications like Whisply have revolutionised whistleblowing systems. But we've got some choices there. We've had examples of some applications which are all about getting information to TI. We've got other examples of working with government on applications that will get information to government directly. And so that's quite different. That raises different questions. As part of all of that, we have quite a few different choices between using technology, like putting our investment in technology for those purposes, for the reporting of corruption, and then the investment in technology in awareness raising, engagement for the purposes of building coalitions, campaigns, etc. They're quite different functions. So we can never do everything. So we have to figure out, where is the priority area to focus. So that's number 2. Number 3, which is fascinating, is just the diversity of the different types of information that we're building these systems for. Some of it's for reporting corruption. What kind of corruption? Any corruption. Sexual abuse in particular. Election interference. Collection of asset information, which is then used investigatively, not just as a reporting, but as actually a contribution through the investigation. So again, if we're going to invest in something which is going to have big impact, then how do we design consciously to either go for the full diversity or to target which areas? And then the 4th key element where we've got to make choices, I think, is also to recognise that, and this gets to the sustainability issue, I think particularly, is the platforms that we need to not only engage and get people sort of into the movement, if you like, but then how we sustain it and maintain it. And so here we have both internal, how we use technology to maintain and strengthen people's participation, even just within the movement, but even more than that with things like the idea of, okay, if we were to revolutionise our online platforms for education and training, an online, we take the TI Transparency School concept and the Integrity Schools concept, and we use technology to seriously network that type of capacity and engagement. There's a whole different sort of field of possibilities. So those are the 4 big elements, with all of which involve interesting choices. And I'll just move, so just think if you think I've missed anything big that should be in the landscape, whether it's been mentioned or not, just from your own experience. And then 6 issues that I think we have to be very clear that we need to think about. The first is trust and security, in particular, of data. Everybody here in developing and rolling out any kind of application is dealing with issues of security, data security, also data ownership, protection, which jurisdiction, thinking about a TI-wide initiative, which jurisdiction will this data be held in? How will people trust how it's being managed? Data protection, do we do it in Europe? Because then data protection is like the most incredibly regulated minefield, or do we deliberately not do it in Europe? Okay, minefield. The second is trust in the way that the information is being used, particularly verification of the way that it's being used, whether it's being held by TI at a chapter level or more broadly, or by government in particular. It's like, how do we know that the government is actually doing the right thing with the information that we have encouraged people to provide to government? Or how do people know that they can trust us with their information? The verification of the way it's being used is going to be an issue. The third is how we use our online, particularly anonymous opportunities to be involved. And a lot of these platforms, they rely on anonymity or people being able to create their own anonymity to be able to participate in these platforms. How do we match that with expectations that people want to be able to have direct communication and or face-to-face communication as part of the relationships? That's a big issue. The fourth is that issue about values, conflicts, the dangers of the digital landscape that we're dealing with. There's a range of issues we need to think about there. The fifth was actually really interesting from the Nigeria example, is incentives. Do we want to use, what incentives do we need to have, or do we want to create for people to participate in these platforms? And that's, I think that's a really important question, because we'll get to a point where we are just expecting people to participate, and they just won't because they've moved on to something different, or there isn't the financial incentive or the cultural incentive or whatever. And then finally, the sixth big issue is always sustainability, money. Everything comes down to money, especially for, I think in the tech space, for maintenance and updating, keeping information up to date, very expensive. Keeping technology up to date, quite expensive. So it's easy to get money to create things, but it's much harder to get the resources to actually maintain them and develop them. But also those issues of mentorship that we heard about, institutional support, alignment, cooperation with other institutions, including universities and educational institutions. How could we scale that up in a way that would make everything happen much more quickly and also more cheaply for a movement like TI? So that's my 6 issues, and that's more than enough from me. I think if we're over time now, but I think for those who want to spend a few more minutes, I think it would be great to make sure that either we know, which of those issues are most important. I think they're all important, but also any that we've missed in the course of the conversation. So thank you very much.
Sure. Thank you. Thank you very much. And we did start 5 minutes late, so technically we have 5 more minutes. So yes, please, any thoughts, comments, reaction? And yeah, as Anderson said, we make it quick. So
I'll try to make it quick, because I know you guys, everybody wants to go back home. My name is Ben. I'm from Malaysia. I'm 24 years old. I just want to add part 5, trust and anonymity. I think that was one of the subtopics. Let me tell you a story. Back earlier this year in Malaysia, we had a case where somebody was whistleblowing. They were reporting that a company they were working in was selling subsidized fuel. They weren't supposed to. What ended up happening was this person went through official channels. They sent an quote-unquote anonymous email to the person, and turns out that email apparently got leaked to, this went to law enforcement, and for some reason, I don't know how, we don't know how, law enforcement somehow leaked that email to his coworkers. So everybody in the office knew it, which is a surprise to him because he got, like, if I may use a Gen Z term, wrecked by his colleagues. So my question to every panelist and everybody in the room as well is, if you're going to build an app and if you're going to hold people's data, are you ready to take care of that information? I think a suggestion that I would make to all of you is, because this worked for me, because I used to be a whistleblower too at some point. The Australians, there was this one Australian organization, I'm not sure what the name was, but they made this app called Session. And what it does is, it's like a messaging app. Think of Signal, but you don't need your phone number. You just tap, like, make an account, just send the person your phone number, and you can exchange anonymous information with somebody else. That's what I used when I did what I had to do. And yeah, I hope you guys would consider that as a part of your toolkit as well. Session, that's the word. Like.
Thank you very much for that. Anyone else? All want to go home, all tired? No more comments? Okay. Or maybe it was so fantastic and so great that there are no like areas left to be covered. So, yes. So, yes, go for it.
I just wanted to share just a little bit in terms of context in the Pacific. Something that we are trying to also recognize is a lot more intergenerational dialogue as well. Where we talked about meeting in the middle, where we're working, young people working with the older generation, old generation working with the young people. I do know the International Youth Day was themed around intergenerational conversations. And I think this is one of some key things that we are also learning in the Pacific, to bring that in on board. Because if we continue to just put young people in a bracket and older people one bracket, we'll still continue to face a lot of challenges. There'll be a lot of power play, but how do we bring them together to ensure there's open, authentic conversation and learnings as well? As young people, we also believe in learning from older people, from the learnings, and how young people can innovatively improve on some of these learnings as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So with that, then we call it a, there's one okay, so the last intervention of the day. Here you go.
Thank you very much. My name is Agbaji Orinya from Nigeria. I work with a faith-based organization called Palace of Praise Assembly. I've been listening to the conversation carefully, and of course, the world now is tech-driven. But I want to also emphasize the fact that there's absence of mentorship globally. So the parents are busy, and children are busy interacting with inanimate objects. All right? So we have no control over what they see. So when you even develop the app, you don't know what they are doing with their phones. All right? So if there is no mentorship, that gap will still be there. So for us, we have a mentorship program where we identify religious leaders who are doing well, who are role models, and we assign young people to these religious leaders for mentorship. So while we are busy with technology, we shouldn't also neglect the human angle. We should draw these children close to us. We should know we are supposed to have an idea of what they are doing with this technology. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you for all of your inputs. We will now close the workshop. Trust, intergenerational communication. AJ, please take it away.
Thank you, Kanane. And I feel like as a board member of Transparency International, I should say thank you for participating in the 20th International Anti-Corruption Conference, which is now concluding. In concluding this session, I'd just like to thank Kenan and also Petra up the back there, who was actually the coordinator for this workshop from TI Ghana, who's been helping from up the back, but with whom we're about to put together the notes as well. But a big thank you to all the staff from the Secretariat who have been working so hard to make the International Anti-Corruption Conference a success, along with our sponsors, the US State Department. But thank you very much for participating in the 20th International Anti-Corruption Conference, and please make sure that you start telling everybody about the 21st International Anti-Corruption Conference in Vilnius, Lithuania in 2 years' time. So thank you very much.